And I'm going to remember to turn my microphone on, so I'm just going to repeat that again for everyone watching. We welcome everyone to the live stream. We are in a new place and a new time. This isn't going to be the consistent. We are going to a networking event. Surprise, surprise. We're doing our live stream about networking, and we're going to a networking event that starts at about 5:30. So unfortunately, I won't be able to do the live stream if I'm heading to a networking event. And because it's the end of the year, everyone's wrapping up, everyone's getting ready for the holidays, networking events have a tendency of cropping up around this time. So there are a lot of events that we'll be attending. But of course, that's why we're going to talk about networking. And when I said new place, new time, yes, it's a new time for 1:30. Hopefully it's about like 1:40 now by the time we actually got past technical difficulties. But we have moved into our summer studio. So essentially where we are is the co-working space of Creative Geelong. So usually you would see us in the studio. We would be sitting down and we would be in the studio. And unfortunately, during the summer area, well, it's fortunate enough because there's glass all around. It's a beautiful studio. There's lights everywhere. There's natural light seeping in. But as you can imagine, that stuff gets quite hot quite quick. And anything over 30 degrees can be quite detrimental and quite harsh for anyone actually having to sit through that. I did that for an entire summer, which is kind of hard to work through and work with. So what the guys at Creative Geelong did for me was they enabled me to move in here. And what I've got, I'm not going to do it because it's actually going to shake the camera, and you guys are both going to get a bit dizzy. But essentially, what I'm on now is a stand-up desk. The beautiful Dare has not force me. I'm going to have to stay here for 6 months because the weight of this desk that we got out of storage, so it's a stand-up desk, so it can move up and down. I just push a lever and it goes up and down, so I can go from sitting to standing. And right now, I am standing. So I have the ability to project, and I have the ability to talk to you as I would normally through normal means, as opposed to just trying to gesticulate while I'm sitting down. So focusing on you guys, I will feel free to join the Video Confidence crew. You'll see some behind the scenes video of me playing around with my new desk. And it's beautiful, it's clean, I got a lot of space, and we're going to be doing a lot of videos from here that we're definitely that we have secured, and we will be doing plenty of new videos from here. The backdrop, however, I might invest in a new one because when that backdrop was right behind me, it actually fit. You could actually see everything, but unfortunately when it's just like it's about, I'd say, a foot away or about 30 centimeters away, and in that case, like, it's not very big. Like, I have to pull in the camera a fair bit, and people on the IG stream can actually see the wall. So we're probably going to invest in a new backdrop, probably sooner rather than later. Thinking of something big enough to span the whole space so we can use the wall to our full advantage. And through that process, we'll do a video so then we can teach you guys about getting your own backdrops. Because of course we've invested in like black and white backdrops before, using vinyl, the very thick and professional stuff. It's just the one that we've currently got in the studio obviously belongs in the studio, and also it's quite large because it needs to work in a studio. But right now, this beautiful boy is doing his job. It's doing his right thing, giving me a bit of a backdrop that's not just a plain white beige, and giving you something to look at other than the pretty face. And yes, I am aware that I am wearing orange today. That I am wearing purple instead of my orange, but that's okay. We're all good because you can still see my face. It's all right. G'day, Evelyn. How are you today? So, today we are discussing networking, and essentially networking 101. So why would you network? What is networking? And then we go to how to network effectively for you and your business. And then we go on to places to actually look to find places to network. And of course, we'll do our usual obligatory break in the middle, and we'll let you know on what we've got going on at Video Confidence Coach. And of course, make sure that you comment below with any questions that you have revolving around networking or revolving around videoing in general. And I'm just going to be looking down here at my notes because I probably should have read them before I started, but here we are. We're all good. And as we go along, like I said, make sure that you invite, tag, or share this video with anyone that you know who is actually needing to do some networking for themselves or their business or even their hobby, but hasn't gotten around to networking because they're like, oh, I don't need to go to talk to anyone. I don't need to meet people. I'll tell you now, you need to meet people. The reason we're going to jump straight into why you need to network is because, especially as small business owners or even people in the business sphere, yes, that includes people who are employees, but also people who actually own businesses, it's actually quite lonely. You work at your business, on your business, and in your business, but then you don't usually talk to people other than your clients and customers, which, don't get me wrong, those are great to have, but you don't get to complain to them when none of the clients, doing something wrong. And you don't get to talk to them as if you were buddy friends because there is that client business relationship. When you're at a networking event, you are meeting with other business owners, with other employees, with other people, of course there's maybe a bit of alcohol flowing in a couple of canapes and foods. Yes, I know it's canapes, not canapes, but I like to call them canapes around the place. And I know there's all that stuff to lubricate the mood and the social sharing. But to meet up with people who are in your regular local location, even in Melbourne, for my instance, meeting up with these people at a regular basis develops a relationship that you can then use in your own business. You can just use it as a crutch of just saying, hey, you've met this person once or twice before, and you had a question about insurance. Well then, turns out they're an insurance broker. And you can talk to them about their business. Of course, you would talk about other things that are, say, family related, pets related, or anything outside of business, as well as discussing business. But it's always good to bounce off people that are not yourselves or not your employees, and are not just your family members, because I'm not sure about yourself, but my family is sick of hearing about business all the time. So they always want to, it's always recommended that I personally go to a lot of networking events. And I'll let you know further in the live stream how many I do on a weekly basis, monthly basis, and so on. And what is a good number for you guys to have. So I've already touched on how you actually approach that isolation of being a business owner, because you are by yourself most of the time, unless you're working with a business partner. But again, it's probably you and them, and that's about it. It can be a bit boring sometimes. And it also gets you to build relationships with people outside of your niche, outside of your industry, or outside of people that you usually communicate with, the people that you usually deal with. It helps you with that. And it also helps you to learn more about your local area as well, because the people that you're going to meet at networking events can be anywhere from, high-flying people that work in the government sector, all the way to people that go to regular markets, or, say, for example, people that maybe just know the ins and outs of local government. That's stuff that will be useful for you to know. And you catch up with these people, have a nice chat, have a nice drink. And if you're sociable, if you're nice, if you answer their questions and you ask them questions and work on your active listening, I know that sounds like I'm addressing a student, but your active listening, where you're actively listening to what they have to say and asking them questions more about what they are talking about. And so you can get a better understanding of, the industry and what they're discussing about. But it also makes you more memorable in a sea of potential people that they're networking with. And it also, as well as you learning more about the other people and the other industries that you have around you in your local area, it'll allow you to actually find solutions to your problems. So say, for example, like the example I brought up before about insurance. I know nothing about insurance. Insurance is not my wheelhouse. It's not my tiny little box. It's not my niche. Insurance, no me, no. But going to networking events, I have learnt so much from just talking to people in the insurance industry about just general questions I have, being like, should I get this type of insurance? And yes, I could actually go to them, and I have done that from time to time, actually physically go to them and discuss, after meeting them at a networking event, and actually go to them and discuss about insurance, problems or ideas of insurance. But because you're meeting them at a relaxed, casual atmosphere where nothing is decided, nothing is you have to make a decision, or nothing is you have to buy now. There isn't that pressure. And if there is, you're going to the wrong networking events. But the idea is that you have that relaxed casualness where you can learn and you can find solutions to problems that you're already having, because it's natural as humans. We want to socialize, and inherently in that socialization, you're gonna talk about your problems. Isn't that positive? But you also get advice from people. Now, of course, this isn't law, this isn't legally binding advice, and nor should it ever be. If you ever get legal advice, put it in writing. That's a legal advice from my lawyer, I should say. But in regards to just advice about your business, you could have started your business 2 weeks ago. Some people started their business 20, 30, 40 years ago, and they have a lot of experience to give. And in these casual exchanges of information, you can get a lot of advice that you can then implement into your business because they've tried it themselves. They've actively worked on whatever it is, and they're able to swing it around and make it work for their business, which then hopefully should be able to do the same for you. And you can get that advice straight from the source and straight from people that have actually done the work. And of course, it allows you to follow up with people that you meet in real life. Especially with us, any networking event that we go to and we collect someone's business card, we make sure that we follow them up via email and connect with them on LinkedIn. It's like the two-pronged attack that we do every single time. We usually do it the next day or the day after, just to, again, remind them who we are and why we would, what we talked about, but also just letting them know that, hey, you're on my radar. If there's anything you need, contact me, and vice versa, because now you know them. And then you can follow them up for, again, when you need advice, when you need help, or when you're needing that information. Or say, for example, there's plenty of people I've come across with at networking events. When I wasn't entirely sure, I messaged them, via LinkedIn or via email and just said, hey, I know we discussed about this particular topic, but then someone else joined our conversation. Do you know who that person is? And then you can meet those people. Because as someone who does things, I've forgotten entirely who actually said the quote, but the quote is, it's not what you know in business, it's who you know. And that is so true, especially when you're dealing with business in a local front. So anything that's talking about small to medium, even large businesses, people think you must think nationally, you must think globally when talking about business. It's not strictly true. Business always starts from small business, one person doing their best to hustle and make money. Well, in that case, every business has started that way. So why don't you do the same? And by reaching and bringing out your network to reach larger and larger groups of people, yes, you can get influence and get them to buy something from you. But it's that relationship that you build with them. And when they need someone, they'll refer you because they know you personally. They don't know, Joe Blow from Insurance 101. I know, say, for example, I don't actually have a name. I was going to give you an example of someone that I can actually pick out, but I need to actually see their face. I'm not really a name person. I'm definitely a face person. But when you meet these people regularly at networking events, you build a rapport with them. And as I've already stated, you go through all those points that you've already made in regards to networking. And say, for example, that's what we do a lot at Video Confidence Coach. Yes, a lot of my businesses are B2B. So the difference is B2B as in business to business, and there are B2C, which is business to consumer. And then, of course, consumer to consumer isn't exactly a thing because, well, consumers don't really sell to other consumers unless we're talking like Facebook Marketplace and other places like and garage sales. But that isn't strictly a business because a business means you're putting a lot of effort in to get that far. But in regards to my line of work, I work with businesses to then reach out to people. So a lot of the work I do requires a relationship with other business owners, with people that can make decisions. And of course, networking and meeting up with these people, I get into that company to then discuss and help them with their problems. Because there's been many clients that I've had in the past. I think, to tell you the truth, most of my clients are referrals because I met them in real life and I got to feel and understand their pain on a human level to then being able to give them answers straight away. Which then from there, I would appear on their radar, they would appear on mine, and whenever they would have a need for something that needed to have an answer, they would, go to Zoe and check it out, or they'd give me a call, or whatever they would need. Because they've met me in person, they remember who I am. And that's the same thing with you in the networking world that you do. And it's not just a one-fits-all type situation. You don't just go to one networking event and there you go, you're done your networking. Here are all the referrals coming my way. It's not that case, and it never should be that case. You have to go back consistently, appear consistently in the networking circles that you have chosen. And say, for example, it's not a bad thing to try new networking spots. Like if you try new places to do networking and then it doesn't work out, or you don't like the group or the vibe of people that are there, it's fine. Don't go again. Networking is entirely your choice, but for a lot of business owners, they forget that there is a world outside of your business. There is an entire world outside of your brain. So why don't you go and make sure that you're actually embracing that world? And of course, make some money out of it too. So I'm going to give you a few tips on how actually how to network, or the best practices when networking. Then we'll take a little bit of a break, and then we're going to jump straight to the best places to look for actually networking groups. Where do you find them? How do you find them? And I'm just going to make sure I've answered all the questions and comments. Yep, just checking. All right. Okay, so I think we're doing quite well. Okay. Yes, my hands are up here because like I said, the camera's a little bit close up, so I have to put my hands in to make sure that I'm actually in shot. Okay. So the next thing we're going to discuss is actually how to network. I've already discussed about the benefits and how it's actually beneficial for you as a business owner or an employee of a business to actually get that out there and network with people in that corporate level. And one thing that I will add to that last bit there is that networking is different to going out to party or going out clubbing or going out just to hang out with your mates. Networking is, yes, you're meeting up with other business owners, but there is an air of we will be discussing business in the air. There is that air of like, we're meeting other business owners because this is a networking event of other business owners. Like, we don't mind talking to each other about a business because it's what we do every day. When you go out to parties, or when you go out to clubs, or when you actually go out to general people, most of the people you meet, or at least maybe I don't get out enough, but most of the people you meet won't run businesses, and they won't really understand the trials and tribulations that you have with running a business. So it can feel and sound like you're complaining, or that you're running a business and people are just, they don't really get it, and they feel a bit wary, or they usually don't always engage with you. Yes, you could be running a business, but sometimes that's a lot of the stuff that you speak about as a business owner, because again, you're in it day to day. Your entire livelihood is on this thing. Your conversation might revolve around a bit, at least a little bit around your business. And if that's not the case, then of course, go out, party and club. But for a lot of people, going to these networking events is a way of, again, as I've mentioned before, socializing with people that you already know in the business world. You get advice, you get backup, but you also get to go to a place where you're going to be talking to business people about business. Yes, of course, other things we'll talk about. We're humans, we like to talk about stuff, but you're going to be going there strictly for business. And of course, putting it on tax is always a good thing. But in regards to how to network effectively, well, the best thing to do is to start with a smile. So when you go to a networking event, of course, either get there early or on time. Depending on the gravitas of the night, you could turn up late. So say, for example, there is a monthly event down here in Geelong from the Geelong Chamber of Commerce. Now, the Geelong Chamber of Commerce is I don't think it's government funded, but it's a group of people in business of Geelong who bring together and advocate on behalf of the businesses of Geelong. And they run a monthly networking mixer type event. And because they have an average of about 300 people per event, it's every month 300 people usually rock up to the event, it's not really a bad thing for you to come up late. Of course, most of these networking, and even all networking events, have a structured section, usually in the middle, where you're actually going to hear a couple of speakers speak, or have someone talk about their particular business or what have you. It's usually well, it's actually required for most business networking events that you actually have that little section in the middle where you're there listening to someone speak. Think of it like a 21st, but more intense and more business-like. So usually that section is structured into the middle of the event, and either end is free networking. Again, go grab a drink of whatever kind, grab some canaps, and start mingling and chatting with people, usually before and after the actual talk. But in regards to when you can turn up, you can do that, a little bit of the way into the networking, get there for the presentation, do a little bit of networking after and leave, or maybe just rock up maybe during the presentations. Probably wouldn't recommend that because it doesn't look too good. And then stick around for networking after. It's entirely your choice. But in regards to networking, especially when you're first starting out, I highly recommend getting there as the time suggests. And then figure it out from there in regards to, okay, if there's only one or two other people here, maybe next time I'll make sure to come a little later. Or maybe by the time you get there, it's jam-packed and you're like, okay, maybe I should have come here a little earlier. Again, that's if you enjoy the event. So you come in either earlier or on time and you come in with a smile. You're going there to meet other business owners, so who are probably in the same situation as you, or have once been in the same situation as you, or the situation in business that you want to be in. But like I said, you're going there with other business owners to discuss life and business. So be positive about it. Now, there's many recommendations I have for you don't have to avoid speaking about negativity entirely in regards to your business, but say, for example, if you're having a problem and you just feel like you just keep drawing the conversation to that and everyone else is kind of like feeling a little bit deflated every time that you speak, probably a good idea to switch to something a little bit more positive than to keep going on the same track about being negative. Because some people just bring in that mentality into a networking event that they just want to get this stuff off their chest, which again is fine. But when you're meeting a new person or when you're meeting a new group of people that could hopefully help you in your business, talking only about negative things or negative experiences that you've had is probably not going to shine on your business too well, but it's probably not going to shine on you too well either. And like I said, people do come to networking events for advice. So you can ask people around you, I'm having this problem with my business. Do you have any advice? Now, of course, with all pieces of feedback, take it with a pinch of salt, and don't take on every piece of feedback, but just listen to what people have to say. Because like I said, people in these networking events have a lot more experience than most of the biggest owners of business throughout the world. So if you're able to actually meet these people on a regular basis and you can ask their advice and then take what may seem to work or just maybe restructure your thinking in a new way. But as you do that, make sure you do it with a smile. And make sure that when you do ask people for advice or you ask them questions, make sure that you're friendly about it, that you ask questions. That of course, don't ask, businesses about their, trade secrets because they're not going to give you an answer for it. But most of the time you're going to be asking questions about, okay, how's business going? Or how's the family? Or how's it going since I last saw you? And if this is the first time that you've met them, ask them questions about them personally. Yes, it's their, they could be owners of the business, they could be employers of the business, or anywhere in between that level. But if you ask them about who they are personally, or it's nice to meet you, what do you like? Ask them questions like that direct to them. And again, use your active listening and you're able to ask them questions about, they do flamenco dancing as a hobby. Oh, I'd love to do that. Where do you do that? Or how do you even get started with that? Do you need a partner? Just ask questions like that and, get their response and then continue asking questions from there. Like any good active listener was, but again, it would cement them in your mind, but also you get an idea of how passionate they are, what they actually enjoy doing. And most people that go to networking events actually don't mind talking about their business too much. Well, hopefully they don't, or they wouldn't be very good networkers. So ask them questions about their business, what they do, how they do it, and does it make sense for you to work together in some way? Maybe, maybe not. Thanks for the like, Jake. But also, don't be afraid to move on. You could meet up with people that you meet on a regular basis. There's a habit that I do. Unfortunately, I do this a lot when going to networking events where maybe I'm a bit too tired, or maybe I'm not really enjoying myself or feeling myself. And I have a tendency of just sticking with people that I know, or people that I've met, or I'm business associates with. I don't like to use the word friend because friend has a different connotation when it comes to business, but I use the term business associate. So when I meet up with business associates, I have a tendency of clinging to them, not physically, but actually just meeting with people I know, because I'm just not in the mood to meet new people, and that's okay. But when you go to networking events the amount of times I do, that's going to happen. And again, like I said, at the end of this live stream, I'll let you know what that number is. But don't be afraid to move on if the conversation is waning, or it just feels like it's at its end. Say your goodbyes and then move on to another group and talk to new people. There's been many times where, like, we've been in a larger group, and then we've had having a conversation, and then a large part of the group just kind of turn in and move away because they're having their own conversation. But then you can continue with yours, move on to your conversation. And again, if it doesn't feel like it's flying or working too well, say your goodbyes, turn away. Especially when you're in a very packed or crowded room, feel free to just move slightly away and then see how you go about the process. So don't feel like you have to stick with someone just because you're talking. If the conversation's on fire and it's popping, then yeah, maybe stay in the conversation and see how you go. But if you feel like it's not working, or maybe, say for example, if you feel like you're not very comfortable in the conversation, that shouldn't happen at all. And if it does, maybe talk to the organizers. But if you ever do feel uncomfortable, or you feel like the conversation's not going anywhere, just say, hey, I'm going to go grab a drink, or hey, I'm just going to go to the loo, or I'm just going to go grab some canaps. Whatever, make your excuses. And people understand in networking events that when you leave a conversation, doesn't automatically mean you're going to come back. Again, you're not there for a coffee date. You're not there for a fika. Coffee date in Swedish. You're not there for a fika. You're not there to meet people purposely at the event. Sometimes you do, and a lot of people that I meet up just say, hey, are you heading to the event tomorrow night? And I go, yeah. And they say, okay, cool, I'll meet you then and we'll chat in person. That type of thing. That will happen. But again, you have to go to networking events to actually meet these people and set up those type of dates. And of course, one thing that I'll stress to anyone and everyone is make sure you go to networking events with a business card. Now, some younger people don't like the idea of carrying around like a card. Carrying around a card with, your details on it and your name, and you're just like, why would I want to carry this around with me? Or like a collection of them, which you probably would be doing. And the reason that you want to carry around a bunch of business cards is because you're going to be dealing with people outside of your niche, but also outside of your own age range. And people enjoy having business cards. At the end of the day, some people actually set themselves a goal of, hey, I'm going to this networking event. All right, I'm going to get 5 business cards. That means I'm going to follow up with 5 people the next day, and I'm going to have 5 more people in my sphere of people that I know and people that I trust. So, and that's also a way of getting the contact details. Putting out your phone and saying, hey, can you give me a number, is just a little bit too difficult sometimes for people. And people don't inherently want to, get out their phone and when all they need to do is like, hey, here's my card. And they just take it, cool. And then when at the end of the day or the next day they're, back in the office or the studio or in their business, they can look at their card and go, oh, cool, I met this person. I'll send them a quick email to let them know who I am. And that's what these are for. And if you're not using them effectively in your networking, I wonder what you're actually doing. And you can easily get, a cheap set of business cards from like Vistaprint or something like that. Just something that has your right contact details on it. Something that you can give in person. Hey, it was nice to meet you, or it was nice to chat to you. I have to run off, or I have to go get a drink, or what have you. Here is my card. We'll catch up later. And that's usually what networking revolves around, either meeting this person again in the future or using their services, or vice versa, again, them contacting you. Nothing is secure. I want to state that right here, right now, that even though people may sound interested at the networking event, 2, 3, maybe even a week later, they may not be as interested, but you've still got them in your sphere of influence. So hopefully you're doing that with your networking. And if you're not, I'm a little bit concerned, but that's all right. And thank you, Jake, for the comment. This is rad. Oh, thank you. I feel very nice. I feel very loved. And that's what you do when it comes to networking. You make sure that you have your business cards. And if you don't have your business cards, you find an alternative, because there is a way that you'll just miss people. You'll just, they'll just float out of your lives because, you didn't say hi. And it's kind of a bit sad, especially when you've put so much effort into usually paid events. So networking is usually, there's some events that are free, some that are paid. Most of the time you will be attending paid events because those are usually the better ones. And from those networking events, it's always good to do business. Like, yes, we are as business owners going to networking events to catch up and meet with people, but also to meet new contacts, to meet new possible clients. And if you're not using that tool to your best advantage, it's a bit concerning if you don't do that correctly. So we're going to have a little break now. I'm going to have a little bit of more water, and we're going to have a look at his next beard. Oh no. I've moved to the wider shot and you can actually see the type of stuff. So I've tried to make this work. I know it's just a bit small, so I can't really have it in, and no matter how hard I try and push it, there's only so far I can go. But on screen, you'll see now that tomorrow we have our Video Made Easy workshop that is shaping up to look brilliant and look great. And I'm really happy and really excited for everyone who's going to be rocking up to the workshop. So this is the Eventbrite link. Of course, you can download it, or you can just look at, up Video Confidence Coach on Eventbrite and you can check it out. So scrolling down, you'll see most thing I definitely recommend is you just put a video on your Eventbrite. And this is a video that I usually say to people, should I get a ticket? Here are the reasons why. And then down below, you've got details as to what the event's about, who's it for, and what's it good for. But this workshop is our, industry standard workshop to get everyone at the same pace. Video Made Easy is our first level when it comes to workshops, and it gives you that skills to just really understand where you're coming from in regards to video, and you're not feeling left out just because maybe you haven't done video for yourself before and you don't actually feel like, oh no, why am I actually trying this? Because I am scared off put and I don't understand what's going on. Video Made Easy smooths that all over. I'm there to answer all your questions, and you actually get tools that are actually going to be useful for you and useful for you to use in the future. So, ready to get back to networking? I sure am. Thank you again, Jake. So what I'm going to do with the next couple of minutes that we have is I'm going to be talking to you guys about places to actually look for networking events. So I've talked to you already about why you should think about networking and the benefits of it. Of course, there are a couple of drawbacks, but most of the time there are benefits in networking. I've talked to you actually how to network effectively, making sure that you use a smile, that you ask questions, that you're there for the people as well as the businesses. You're not just there for yourself. And if you are, you're going to be avoided like the plague. And now we're going to talk about places to actually look when searching for places to network. So this can be, locally, internationally. There are a couple of conventions or expos that have have a lot of networking sessions where you can meet other people in other niches around the world. So that's one thing I can definitely recommend when going to these events, is making sure that you go to those networking sessions, because you meet up with other people who are outside of your sphere, and because they're on the other side, they're from the other side of the globe, it's actually quite nice to have those contacts for when you need them. But going through places to look is to actually ask business owners that you already know, so that you've met in passing, maybe they're clients of yours, and just ask them. Usually the people that you have as clients are either going to be in somewhat relation to you in regards to the same country or maybe same location. And even if they are separate to you, maybe they've got their own ideas on where to actually find these locations. Or find these places to actually network. So ask people that you already know and ask their experience with these groups. One thing I can always recommend is an app called Meetup. Meetup, all one word, has a red logo with a white M. And this is a group where people think about like a slightly slimmed down version of Facebook, but focus purely on events. So these meetup groups is as a person who actually runs the event, that would be a paid thing. But for most people, it just gives you a chance to actually see what events are out there and see which ones are, just general meetup groups, movie groups, fan groups, photography groups. But also there's a very large section devoted to business and usually business networking. There are presentations about specific things that are available hopefully near you. But using Meetup is actually quite effective for you to be able to see what other events are around. And another thing that also works is Eventbrite. So Eventbrite is an orange with a white E, and I run all my workshops through Eventbrite. And Eventbrite is just a good platform that you can just put in your location, search up the type of events that you're looking for, networking, business, presentations, seminars, workshops, whatever you need. You can actually look through that and see what's there for you. You can filter out, your price range if there's only, you have a price range for what you can do in regards to networking events, and you can use that to your advantage to be able to see what's out there. And say if you've missed an event, or say for example that maybe an event of yours that you're looking at is a bit outside your budget, you can then see who's actually running the event and follow them on their social medias. So when they run a new one, or maybe when they run a one in the future that's maybe more in your price range, you've got those details there to follow up and find out where those events are coming from. And you can also contact them as well and ask for a couple of questions as well. One thing that I can definitely recommend is making sure that you use your Facebook groups. Now, for myself, even though I do work on Facebook and I do a lot of work with my clients on Facebook, I personally don't use Facebook a whole lot. I've just grown a bit bored with it. I've grown a bit bored with social media in general. I don't find it as fulfilling as I used to, but I also know how to spend my time wisely when I'm actually on the social media apps. So when you go to Facebook groups, there are particular groups, especially larger groups, that actually hold in real life functions or networking events. So say for example, down here we've got the Geelong Small Business Network is one that is definitely a biggie, that runs regular in-person events, including catch-up dinners and a few monthly presentations, which we were on this month. Thank you for that. And we've also got Like-Minded Bitches. Don't take me off the air, Facebook, because I swore. And then Business and Heels. Again, Geelong Chamber. So there's a lot of places that in these Facebook groups that are, yes, they are Facebook groups that people can comment and write posts, but they usually do hold events, especially when they're of a bigger size. And yeah, you just rock up to the events and meet up with new people. And you can decide which events that you go to depending on the amount of people that are interested in the group, but also you can see, is it a, friendly coffee catch-up, for example, or is it a presentation and is it a presentation and networking type of event? So you can see what type of events are out there and what would work best for you, especially if you're first starting out. I highly recommend going to something a little bit more on the casual side than, say, for example, the presentation side, just because it just gets you out there speaking to people. And because you're in a more relaxed cafe, restaurant vibe, there's more of a chance that they're going to give you better advice because you're not just panicked or overwhelmed by the amount of people that you can meet at presentations or seminars where there's just a lot of people there, and that can be kind of overwhelming, especially when you're just like, okay, this is my first time, I don't exactly know what to say. So it's always good to meet people in a relaxed environment first and then move on to the big leagues when you feel like you're ready. But never feel like you're not, because you're going to have to do it at some point. And the last thing that I will leave you is make sure that you check out your local chambers, institutes, and associations. So there could be a local group near you that is, businesses of fill in the blanks, or chamber of commerce of blah, blah, blah. So they're usually either run by the council or the government, or even just by people taking the initiative of forming groups of their own volition. Even in your own industry, for example, there are probably an industry focused association or group or institute that you can look into and see when their events are coming up, or see when their end of year dinner. That's a big thing for associations, when you can meet people that, say for example, it's your industry and it's in your niche and you're just a bit perplexed as to, okay, I'm new in this industry or business, pay the $40, $50, maybe even 100 depending on the swankiness, to go to their end of year dinner and meet people in my industry, because they're not your competitors and they never will be. Even if you're in the same strictly location, or if you're working with the same type of clients, for example, no one has the same type of customers. There isn't a select pool of tiny people that will pay you money and they're just hoarding them all. That's not the case. When businesses differentiate themselves, it's because they're looking for particular different people. So say, for example, there's plenty of life coaches out there, but only a few select work with life coaching for teenagers. Strictly, at-risk teenagers, for example. Or maybe we're talking about life coaching, but for, the seniors, or say the elderly past the age of 85, for example. Because when you're working with someone doesn't automatically mean that they're going to steal your clients. And that's the same thing when you go to these groups or institutions. You're talking with people who have the same understanding of the industry. They understand the same problems that you're having, or maybe they've had that same problem in the past and being able to overcome it. That's probably information that you would like to know yourself. And you can use that to your advantage by joining these groups and associations. And because they hold regular events, you can go in and check out those events and ask questions every time that you do. So just to catch up everything, we've talked about why you would network, we've talked about how to network, and we've talked about places you can look for networking groups or networking events. But what I want you guys to do is to actually take the plunge and find these groups. And as I promised throughout this live stream, we actually attended. So all right, going back a bit. So say, for example, I started my business 10 years ago, and because I was still in school and because I was 14, there was only so far I could go in regards to networking. But once I moved out of home, I got that a little bit of independence. I went to networking events maybe once or twice a month, and then got the confidence to keep going. So for a long period of time, I'd say about 3 to 4, maybe even 5 years, I did about 2 networking events a week. And yes, there are enough out there. Even in Geelong, which is considered a rural centre of our state, there's plenty of events that I go to. Some are free, some are paid. You go out there and you see what works for you, and you put your name and face out there, press the flesh as it were. And then from now, we go to maybe one a week, once a fortnight right now, because I'm still recovering. It does take a lot out of you. The energy does take a lot out of you. But then probably after that, I'd say maybe we do 1, maybe 2 networking type events a week. Again, meeting new people, saying hello, and possibly getting new clients out of that. But I'm not saying those same sort of numbers for you. Maybe even going to a networking event twice a month, I think is quite reasonable, especially when we're talking about larger groups or association, networking events or meeting events where you're going to be meeting a lot of people in a very short amount of time. So usually these events run maybe 2 hours, 3 hours, and see what type of people you meet at these events. And at the end of the event, when you leave and you get in your car or you catch the bus or however you leave the event and you feel like, I just wasted my time, why have I done this? Then don't go back to that group. Don't continue with something if you don't feel like you've gotten any benefit out of it. But say, for example, you've left the event and you feel, I really got a lot of value from that. I feel like I've made a lot of connections. I'm really happy with myself and the way I conducted myself today. Well, then keep going. It means it's a good workshop, especially for you. And just because something doesn't work for you doesn't mean it won't work for someone else. But you can still give your opinions to people and still say, all right, this is how I felt about the situation. It may be different for you, but this is how it worked for me. So hopefully you can use that too. So we're just going to finish up. And all I'm going to ask that you do is go to a networking event. It can be a small coffee catch-up, it can be a dinner with a whole bunch of people from a certain group or industry, or it could be a large-scale presentation, expo, networking event. It's entirely your choice, whatever's in your price range. Even if it is a free one, don't knock free. Don't knock free just because it's free. It's usually because it's either maybe a government-associated one or whatever reasons that it's free. just meet up with people. See how you go, and please make sure that you follow them up by either, liking their Facebook on their business, or, connect with them on LinkedIn. Make sure you check out our LinkedIn video for how to actually set up your LinkedIn, or how LinkedIn has changed in the past 3 years. And what I'm going to ask you to do is just make sure that you tell us. Make sure you comment below in this video or any of the videos about networking of how this actually went for you. Do you feel like networking is just not for you, or do you feel like the details that we've been able to give you today has actually helped you progress further? We would love to know, and make sure you comment that below. So we're going to finish up today. I hope we've answered. Thanks. We hope we've answered all your questions. We will be leaving our live streams up as per usual, and probably be putting them in a podcast sooner rather than later. But today, a lot of work to do, so probably not. But I'll leave you guys to it, and I'm going to stop there.